Like 1 million something downloads in your podcast network, A10's. And I'm not trying to put you on as like, this is Allie Trost, A10 expert. Like, I don't think I need to do that. But I guess I should probably introduce you at some point. I'm like, you wear so many hats, but you really are like a content director.
I would say like content manager / like host and reporter.
Yeah, you like manifest the content, you create it, produce it, edit it, put it up. I mean, you have to do everything now.
It's me and Ben Mesner who does like a lot of he's also like the guy who cuts all the commercials and everything like that.
Ben helped me record so many promos.
He's the best.
It was so weird because like it doesn't really seem like 3 years since it's been like traditional radio for me. I was asked not to say the F word. That was the main concern. I could just remember Alok's face like, okay, so you're going to go on air and you're not going to cuss and we're not going to have like, but I mean, I did a lot of not mouthy things on ESPN Kansas City, but I definitely pushed a little bit. I do want to say just flat out shout out to Allie because already in the first 3 minutes of this interview, she's made eye contact with me, which it took an hour and 19 minutes for Carrington to make eye contact with me. We had viewers point out, like, why wasn't he ever looking at you? And I'm like, well, there's NBA finals going on. There's like college football in the background. I'm like, we're kind of on a Tuesday night here where it's like, this is like the NFL off day usually. What do you do on an average Tuesday?
Oh gosh, it kind of just depends. I feel like this year has been so weird with, and like a lot of my coverage is like Major League Soccer. So they do typically have more like midweek games, and this season especially, that was usually a Saturday, Wednesday, Sunday, just kind of like 3 games.
It was staggered. It was kind of nice to have that.
But you kind of knew like even if there was a midweek game, it was probably going to be a Wednesday. So Tuesdays, like I honestly do not know because I feel like my weeknights, especially during the last however many months we've been in this pandemic and everything that's going on, sometimes there's sports, sometimes there's not. Sometimes I'm in bed by 9, other times I'm 4 glasses of wine deep. So it just kind of depends on the night.
Miller Lights deep,
or 3
yeah. I was like, I need
that's
to be
my twist.
You have to have like alcohol at some. We have to drink together at some point. I know like the second round of shutdowns coming down. I tweeted out yesterday, Kansas City had 4 minutes of freedom left before Mayor Quentin Lucas shut us back down. We're doing this obviously before everything shuts down again, but it kind of seems like an uphill battle being in media right now.
It definitely is, and that is true for 100 different reasons, it feels like, whether that is the pandemic, which is for whatever reason a point of contention with a lot of people, and especially trying to talk about everything going on in the sports world through the lens of the huge thing that is influencing not just sports, but everything right now, of course. So the pandemic and COVID, and also just like trying to put your reporter hat on too at times, because it's like, for example, I had a show the Saturday morning that the news broke that Cam Newton had tested positive for COVID. So you kind of go from sports talk, and like a sports talk radio host, I do some reporting, more so if I'm on as a guest, and a lot of, the show hosts at 810 will have me on, like on the midday show to talk soccer, and like give like the report, what's the latest with sporting. This was a case where I'm like, oh, news is breaking right now, I'm going live, scrap my show plan, anything fun I had, any like analysis, doesn't matter. And so you kind of go into a different mode. So I think it's just being really flexible, which is a battle in and of itself in a time where you're having to be flexible because of a lot of different things. News is always breaking in the NFL, but with COVID, that has just kind of tripled in a way. I feel like there's new news at all times, and it can be exhausting to keep up with it. Then you look at all of the racial issues and social injustice issues that kind of took over through the course of the summer months. Then you get into the political season, and you're right around election time, and it's like trying to talk about...
Everyone's so happy during the election season.
Oh my gosh, it's just so like nice. Light and airy and really fun. Is. I mean, you could just... you could literally cut through the tension with a knife. And
I was worried that my friends in media were going to get stabbed, the usual.
Well, and
like, you just have to worry about everyone that leaves the house, like, okay, well, please come back in one piece, thank you.
Like, really, though. And for me, I've kind of found, like, my voice on social media is more like puns and funny memes and being lighthearted. I used to actually want to go into, like, writing and, you know, work on this set, like work at Second City or SNL, be like a comedy writer.
All right.
I used to do like all the skits in college.
So puns are your thing, though.
Puns are my thing.
So
They're
that's
my
what you would
jam.
be like SNL writer. If they had a pun episode where they just needed like the best puns,
I'm
that
like,
was your thing.
I'm on a free, like I'll do it freelance, whatever. But like, and I'm kind of, and like this is a joke with all my friends. It's like, we did like superlative hats one time, and it was like, and on her deathbed, her final words were "and then." Because once I get going on something, like, and it's whether it's like a joke, I am like the queen of like, let's take it too far. Let's take it like further than too far.
What's something that gets you going?
Oh my
like
God,
that?
just anything. And like, I mean, like Seinfeld, Larry David, comedians who can find like the hilarious in the everyday ordinary is just like my favorite thing. So I can't think of like an exact
Are you like
example.
really big into sarcasm? Are you big into dry humor? Because like I think that sarcasm is very thinly veiled for like somebody being insecure. So like it can rub me the wrong way in certain
Totally.
sitcoms, like laugh tracks. I hated Friends, and so many people are just like, how can you hate that? It's I'm like, what is it classic for? It's like the worst TV show ever. But like Seinfeld, I get, because it's like that's everyday people, and I mean they didn't have the internet when that came out. That
Yeah.
was like the first thing close to a reality show that wasn't reality, but it kind of was. So I mean it was relatable.
I am with you in that sarcasm, to me, it has to be like the right amount, because I think some people rely on being too offensive, too shock factory, to mask like an insecurity, or maybe like not just having a funny joke or like a funny thing.
Or a pun.
Or, you know, like the whole laugh tracks. I'm with you. Like Friends was never really my jam. I have some friends who love Friends, who
Yeah,
still watch it to
and
this day.
good for them.
Good for
I
you.
get it.
I've watched a few episodes. I've never like watched it all the way through. It's just like not really my thing. Like Nathan For You is something like I just
Yeah.
love like all of those. Just like get you out of your chair laughing just by finding like funny, hilarious ways to twist ordinary, everyday things. And so that
Absolutely.
to me is like the best like comedic relief you can get.
I can
is
see you
when-
being like an Always Sunny fan too.
so
You like
I've
that?
seen my brothers like loved it, and we
Okay.
have similar sense of humor.
Okay.
So I honestly never watched it, but it's kind of one of those things on my list. Another thing about me is that I actually don't watch a lot of TV.
Because you don't have time.
I literally don't know. I am watching The Queen's Gambit right now, which I love. It's
about
a great
chess.
show. It's about chess.
And, like,
my other love in life.
yeah,
No, I don't know.
Yeah.
And
I'm like, I relate to being an orphan that has to rely on their mad chess skills to get through
which is
life.
like why I don't know why I like it, because
Yeah.
I don't know shit about chess. I can't
Don't
relate
need
to
to.
any of like the major themes in the show, like addiction or being an orphan. You know, all of these like,
Having red hair,
really,
none of it really resonates, but it kind of does.
and they're really heavy. But I find it really fascinating. I think they did a really good job with like the storytelling, and so I've enjoyed it. And I also can get more into a show that I know I don't need to commit to like 9 seasons of.
Yeah.
Can we please make the new normal with TV shows just like, hey, here's like one quick season. Maybe we'll come out with the second, but you don't need to commit more than 10 episodes to us.
I got so pissed. I'm not even joking about how mad I got. Game of Thrones.
See, like that's not my jam.
That's it. Like, don't ever waste your time though. Like, I didn't start watching it until I think 2013. And so I was like, oh, I didn't start it at the very beginning, but I think it was close. I wasted so much of my life.
Well, and I know so many people, like all I needed to know.
You know, Beard's like,
Oh my God.
he was so right there with us during the entire thing, and it's like that was awful, right? And he's
Yeah.
like,
No, and I
was.
feel like because I'm on Twitter, as most know.
at Allie Trost.
At Allie Trost. Like if you don't know, I
Let's
would
pause for identification.
I would legitimately be shocked if like 99 to 100% of the people watching this know me from something other than Twitter, just because that's like I think where I'm most present.
I love it. Yeah, it's like,
I love
now
it.
doing Twitter stories. This is breaking news.
Oh my
for
God,
Twitter.
I'm going to be like
I put a thirst trap up. I'm sorry.
which I need to figure out how to use it, because I've been behind on the Instagram stories, at least in like their more advanced forms.
Yeah.
I was trying to post, like I was doing because I get a lot of questions like, oh, like what's your day like in radio? And it's always different, but like I was
Absolutely.
getting ready to host for Josh last week on Almost Entirely Sports, and so I was like, I'll do like a little behind the scenes at the station. So I like go to record it. I'm looking like absolute shit. I've got this hat on, and I'm like, oh, I'll do like one of these like filters, and I'm like, oh, they have a whole library of thousands of filters. So I became immediately overwhelmed.
Yes.
New fonts. I'm like, I can't. Can we just go back to like
Yeah.
the normal typeface? That's all I am equipped
They
for.
way overdid it. There's
They way
so many
overdid it.
options now. I can look like a totally different person, which I totally do. I'm like, look, and I haven't worn makeup. I only wear makeup when I actually have to be in
Yes.
person looking nice. I'm like, God damn it. Because normally, put on a filter, do an Instagram live, put it on there, and it's like, it's
Oh my
done
God.
for you.
Yeah, well, and I accidentally like came across this one, like my nose became this big and my eyes, like I looked like just a,
And you have
like
no
I looked like
pores, and it's
Bambi.
just like, hello.
I was like, I just woke up. Like, what?
Hey everyone, this is what I look
Good
like.
morning.
And Tom's like, wait a second. That was my favorite thing because I can see you guys. Like, I even have questions in here about you two.
Yes.
And it's not just because I'm blocked by Tom, which I will address off air. I know that Tom and I could be best friends, and it's fine. Just like I know you and I could. But Ron Burgundy and Veronica Corningstone, you guys have had to have dressed up like that, have you not?
No, we haven't, but that is great. We like have loved dressing up for Halloween. This year was a little different because of the pandemic, and we were like, we last minute did like, oh, we'll just do like Top Gun. We found matching costumes. It was a little
Just
too
yeah,
much
aviators
effort.
on. You're like, here.
And like, boom, I've never even seen Top Gun, so I'm like I'm such a fraud. I'm standing there like in my, I
This is a
know,
lot.
I know,
This is a
I
lot.
told TV shows I'm
It's okay.
like even worse with the movies. We did dress up as Fire Festival last year, which I feel like was one of my most favorite costumes of all time. I was the Instagram post. He was the sad lunch with like the gross little sandwich. But that's a great one. Like we always are like brainstorming. I'm like way ahead of the game. It's like August. I'm like, what should we do for Halloween? It's like, what are you
He's like,
talking about?
It's August. Can we
It's
get through
August,
football
like-
season like a little bit?
He's
Like,
like, can we at
get
least
through
get
training camp?
Yeah, can we get to fall at least? But no, that is like on the list. That's
it
gotta
has to
it.
be you guys at home, just like the news going on and like practicing diction. I just feel like that's what's going on behind the scenes.
I feel like
always.
I need to get Tom on. We both really love TikTok, but I need to learn
Yes.
to be a better like TikTok creator because I feel like there's a lot of potential. Again, it's like all overwhelming. These kids are like doing all these transitions and stuff. I'm like, huh, what? Like, how do you do that?
I can't dance.
I don't know.
I can't sing.
Oh my
I can't
God.
act. So I'm like, what the fuck am I supposed to do on TikTok?
Well, Tom has these like really funny like behind the scenes peak quarantine. I'm like, oh, like I'll learn how to do this like TikTok dance. Awful. I'm not a good dancer.
What am I doing
Why
to
would I
myself?
think that this like new way of dancing would be like all of a sudden easy for me?
Because
It
I think
was-
you're one of the first chicks at 8'10" that's not a cheerleader, former cheerleader or something. So like, if you don't have the dance background, you can't make 8'10" TikToks.
I would
like,
be-
we got to do some sort of boot camp or
Which
something.
it's so funny that you say that too because so I played soccer all through like my entire life and all through high school and even like back then people like when you look at me I'm 5'1", so I'm perfect for like the one that they throw in the air.
Yeah.
Even though I would risk like horrible bodily harm if I did that.
Please don't hurt me.
I'm
Like, please,
nothing. I can't flip. I'm not that flexible, but thank you for
You can throw me up,
But
but
I'm
I just know
sure.
what's gonna happen.
Like I might fall, land in like the ceiling rafters, but
Yes.
hopefully I come back down and hopefully you catch me.
Absolutely.
But yeah, no, it's like I tried the whole dance thing. I tried the whole gymnastics thing when I was little. I hated it. I was like, I can't. I've been in gymnastics for a year. I still can't do the splits. I'm done. Like,
I
get me
can't do
out.
a somersault. I was 5'9", I think, from the time I was 6 years old on. So it's just like, I'm like, what am I supposed to do? The bars are too short. And I'm like, all right, then I go to basketball and I'm like, I don't want to do this. Like, I'm not that aggressive. Even though it comes off as I might be a little bit aggressive when it comes to sports, no. I will yell at people, but I'm just like, and then lacrosse, I got a stick and I was absolutely like dangerous as hell with that. I was like, I can be aggressive now.
It depends on like what tools you have to like equip you in your aggressiveness.
Absolutely. Basketball, there's not enough like weapons, I feel like.
No, basketball's also just like hard. I don't know. I hate basketball.
Guys, the reason that we're not all Michael Jordan is because basketball is hard,
you guys.
It's just kind of hard.
It's just
you know?
hard. Like, I mean, and for me, it was mostly hard because I am, like I said, 5'1".
You can be a great little point guard, you know?
Yeah,
just get in there
but
and break ankles.
I would have, like, here's the thing. I could have been, like, really good at basketball if I was, like, a really dirty player.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
would have been, like, the one thing that could have set me apart, and I would have gotten found out. So
Yeah.
they
It's
would have just
pretty-
gotten to me before I could have gotten to them.
It's pretty obvious which one's like, you know, out there like snapping ankles and shit
Oh, yeah.
and like throwing elbows. Yeah. I would have done that, I think, if I wouldn't have been so obvious. So like I said, I was one of the taller ones, but all of my tall friends were these lanky people that had no coordination. So they would see us and be like, yeah, basketball, like try it. And we're just like, what the hell are we doing? No, and that's, I don't know. It's just like having the athletic background. Yeah, I never played football, but I can still love football. Do you have a lot of people that say shit like that to you? Like, well, you don't know what I mean, I don't know what it's like because when I I went into sports media route in Kansas City, everyone was so excited. It was all these female empowerment stuff and all that. Not a lot of people said stuff, but of course I jumped in comments when they did. But I mean, what's a general day on social media like for you?
It's honestly not, but like, I'm being honest, it's really not that bad. I've gotten a couple of like responses, and my way of approaching it is either just like ignore it or like turn it into just like something funny. So like, for example, there was a time last year, all I did too, it wasn't like I was like spewing shit out of my mouth. I just simply retweeted. It was like a hook and ladder. I think it was, I forget who the Chiefs were playing last year.
Oh yeah.
It was like Travis Kelce. I think I like retweeted it, and this guy responded and was like, do you even know what a hook and ladder is, or did someone have to tell you? And I was like, hey Ron, did you even know what a burner, he had like 2 followers. I'm like, did you know what a burner account is, or did your wife's boyfriend have to show you? And I just like left it at that. And but like, to me, it's like I ignore it if I don't have a kick-ass response.
Yeah.
But honestly, I've been fortunate, I think in Kansas City, like I haven't faced a lot of negative like comments. I think like it has been a great place for me to like grow in my career, and the most challenging part for sure is juggling all the different sports happening at one time. I mean, it's like being aware of what's going on in the national scene with sports that aren't even relevant really to Kansas City, like the NBA, for example, or the NHL, but then also like just knowing your shit inside and out. And I think like, you know, on TV, for example, like you can, if you're doing like, I've done some sideline reporting, or, you know, you go on like a different network and it's like, oh, like, yeah, you can give like a 30-second report and have that like prepared, hit on the stat you want to hit. But if you're hosting a 3-hour radio show, you can't exactly just like beat around the bush with like the talk, like the highlights. And so that's kind of been a fun challenge for me, is finding like, and nothing that I've mastered by any means, or I'm still learning every time I get behind a mic, but I love it, and I love the challenge. Like I sound like Andy Reid, like I really love the challenge of hosting a radio show, but like I really do.
Hello everyone.
Hello everyone. Yeah, the time's yours. But it's really been like a fun thing, and I started out in soccer here, that turned into Chiefs, and then of course you've got college basketball, college football, Royals. So it's just been really fun kind of getting to know the history too of Kansas City sports, because obviously like having moved here in 2017, I showed up right after Mahomes was drafted, just months later, and so I've only been here for the Mahomes era of Chiefs football. But you know, just kind of learning and understanding more of the history of Chiefs, Royals. I was at Mizzou at the time the Royals won the World Series, and had a ton of friends from Kansas City. I worked at a sports bar at the time, so like for me it was such an exciting time, even though I wasn't from Kansas City.
Where are you from?
I'm from St. Louis, and I know I get a lot of crap from that on Twitter because of my love of emos. But here's my thing, and like with St. Louis sports and Kansas City sports, the Rams left St. Louis what feels like forever ago, and even before they left, it was a race to the bottom. Stan Kroenke did not want to keep the team in St. Louis. It was evident, and it was really just a matter of how it will happen, and you know, when and not if. So like that was kind of just something, like my whole family for the most part in St. Louis, Chiefs fans. So for me, it's like that's not really like a point of conflict of like, oh, I'm from Philly, or I'm from like, you know, LA. And then I grew up a huge hockey fan. So like baseball I think is great. It's fun. Like I like going to baseball games, but in terms of like my hierarchy of sports that I love to cover and just watch as a fan, baseball for me personally is pretty low on the list. Like big into soccer, big into football, big into hockey, and I love watching like college hoops just like anybody else. But yeah, that's kind of like for me the whole St. Louis KC divide. Like coming here, I never felt that, and it's really been more on the food side of things than it has anything else. And
well,
I'm
St.
like,
Louis doesn't have barbecue,
well,
so
and
we can
that's
give
like-
them like a pizza, I guess. Like,
well, and like KC barbecue is amazing. I'm not a big barbecue like person, just in general. Like, it puts me to sleep. So unless I'm just ready
It's a
to like,
lot. I
unless
get
I'm
it.
ready to just like go nap, I'm like not just like, oh, okay, lunchtime, I'm gonna go grab
let's
some
go have some
barbecue. Like
barbecue.
I will pass out. I can tell you right
Absolutely.
now. But it's really good, and here it's phenomenal. So that's like, there's no debate there. I think
That's
that
good.
like my parents even, like Q39, we do not go to any other restaurant when we are in KC. They like, we only want to go here. I'm like, do you want to try this place? No, going to Q39.
So 2017 you came to Kansas City. What were you doing in 2017?
2017 I had just graduated from Mizzou. I was kind of at this, like, senior year of college was interesting for me because I went into Mizzou as a freshman, like, I want to be the next Erin Andrews. I want to, you know, whatever. I knew I wanted to study journalism, but I didn't really know what that looked like exactly. Mizzou has an amazing broadcast program. I have a lot of friends who've gone through it.
Yep.
It's like some schools I've learned now, after the fact, have more like sports-focused interest areas that you can do, whereas Mizzou, you kind of go through the KOMU news route, but you get to do sports, but it's still like everyone who wants to do broadcast, to my understanding, goes through the same thing. And I'm like, I don't want to work in local news. Like, that was just like not something I knew or that I thought I wanted to do or anything like that. So I actually ended up getting my emphasis area major journalism degree in Stratcom, which was strategic communication, exactly as it sounds. I did a couple of sports-related classes there, but I really got away from the desire to get into sports until my senior year, when I randomly, which like sounds so sketchy now, but I randomly got an email from the site manager of the SB Nation women's basketball blog asking if I wanted to cover the Mizzou women's basketball team, and I'm like, why the hell not? Like,
yeah,
let's do
absolutely.
it. And it's funny, like, I remember my boyfriend in college at the time, like, not being that supportive. I'm like, I'm doing it. He's like, do you even know like a lot about basketball? I'm like, not really. Like,
I know enough.
I know enough to, like, you know, get the experience and go out and do it. So I got credentialed, went to every game, did all the post-game reports and any like interesting stories that would happen. I would like cover those, and I loved it. I was obsessed with it. It was so cool too. You know, we talk about like being the only woman in the room. I was not just the only woman, I was the only like young person covering this team. So I'm in the press conference, and you know, it kind of like, I resonated with the women on the team because we were the same age. Like, I saw them out at the bars. Like, I'm bartending and I'm serving them drinks. I'm like, hey, can you hold my leather jacket behind the bar? I got you, girl. Like, it was kind of this
absolutely.
Like, it was cool. And like, I still have really good relationships with like Sophie and Lindsay Cunningham. Sophie now plays in the WNBA, and it was just like such a positive start to what ended up being a career in sports. But upon graduation, I, you know, had this great experience. I actually got to go cover the NBA All-Star tournament in New Orleans, as you know, through that experience with SB Nation, which was so cool. They asked me like, hey, do you have any on-camera experience? I'm like, oh yeah, none. Totally lied. But I went down and I just kind of like learned my way through it. And so when I got to Kansas City, I had reached out to the SB Nation site that covers sporting, the Blue Testament, and came on with them, just like, hey, can I create video content for you guys? Got my own camera, got my own mics, reach out to sporting. They let me go down in the field and interview Peter Vermees, who I will be eternally grateful for his generosity and everything that he's helped me with in my career, just never making me feel out of place, always making me feel like I belong there. And did all of this while I worked full-time in a job that was more relevant to like my Stratcom degree. So I was working that job for about 2 years. I worked in a field full-time that was not sports, and on the weekends, weeknights, was just trying to get better and find opportunity covering sports. And that turned into Arrowhead Pride, which was, cannot say enough about what I learned from John Dixon, Pete Sweeney. All the guys there are just like some of the smartest football people I know, and taught someone like me who I know football, but I did not know it the way that they have helped me since I learned it.
Film, they're like, I mean, they're intense.
It's insane. Yeah. And like, again, just the opportunity that they gave me, the patience, and just helping me learn and grow in something that I was really trying hard to turn into a full-time career. And then Nate Bukaty helping me out with 810, seeing what I was doing covering sporting, seeing, you know, my experience also working like in marketing and social media and how that could then help 810. It all just kind of culminated into this perfect opportunity that I didn't know, I wasn't actively really pursuing until meetings started to happen and things started to look like, hey, this could be a really good next step. Unfortunately, I had literally just started another job in marketing like a month and a half earlier and had to like, oh, hey guys, sorry, I'm actually on my way out. But yeah, it's been wild, and when I look back, I am just really happy that it all happened here in Kansas City, because I don't couldn't have imagined a better spot for all that to happen. So very long-winded answer, but that's kind of my little journey from 2013, baby Allie out of high school, like what I want to do. And then...
You are listening to Kansas City Podcast Network. Talent driven, FCC free. Check out our show lineup, videos, events, and more over at kcpn.org. The voices of Kansas City, unfiltered. Welcome back, everybody. My name is Gat. I'm joined by Allie Trost, or as some people know you as Kevin Keatsman's replacement, as you came into the scene at 810. As we just talked about all your accomplishments, what is that like to step into the shoes of one of Kansas City's most notorious, self-proclaimed radio pioneers, if you will?
Well, I don't think that is exactly the case, but I do remember when 810 put out like the release about bringing me on, a lot of people were in the comments like, are Trost and Briscoe about to take over the like drive time slot? Like, what's gonna, and like, no. And at the time, I really, outside of just everything that had gone down with the Tyreek Hill situation, like I didn't know really like the ins and outs of what, like, I don't think a lot of people realize, like I came on after all of that had happened,
not like in the midst of it.
But like it kind of like, to be honest, it never was really something that was brought up. So I honestly just do not, and still really don't know like too much about everything that happened, but yeah, there are people who thought I was coming on. I'm like, you guys know I don't have any radio experience,
right? 2 to 6, I will be the new drive time host.
Yeah,
Briscoe. I would totally say yes to that. I would say let's put them in there 100%.
It would be, honestly, would probably go off the rails more than it would stay on them. Like we would get some smart-ish sports talking, and then we'd probably go down a rabbit hole of talking about like SpongeBob, which we've done before when I've come on as a guest.
The pandemic kind of made us all talk about more than sports. I had a tweet that I remember that you shared, and it was about it's a bad year to be someone whose personality is like being busy all the time, traveling and like covering sports or just talking about sports. I was like, yeah, I was roasting the shit out of myself too, because it would get to the point when I was working in sports media full time that people wouldn't text me or talk to me. Like they'd be like, we don't want to bother her. Or it'd be people like, can you get me tickets someplace? I'm like, I'm trying to get tickets places. What the fuck do you think I get? Like just this ticket package? Like, well,
people like don't realize that at all. I'm like, do you guys realize like here's the totem pole? Like here's me.
Yeah, and I was in block programming, so I'm like, if anyone's getting tickets to anything, it is not going to be me.
Yeah.
It is going to be someone completely different. But yeah, being brought into the media world in Kansas City officially, like on that level of platform with 810, what a weird time. 2019 was a weird year for most people to be Chiefs fans in general, or to be Kansas City sports fans in general. We went through ups and downs, and my last guest, Carrington Harrison from 610, was one of the people that played the undoctored audio from the Tyreek Hill situation. I just have a very lingering, if I were Tyreek in that situation where I knew my innocence and I took charges that weren't necessarily mine to take, and I was put through the ringer by local media, like how is he not filing defamation of character? How is he not lashing out? Like we've seen what's happened over KCTV5 with them losing contract. We've seen that the Chiefs moving to other stations. We've seen the statements being made, and then the reparations, unfortunately, on the media side being made. But like, if I were Tyreek, I'd be wanting an apology. And why hasn't there been some sort of like, I feel like there has been undercurrent-wise in media. They all just kind of like, everyone just knows we should have done something better or differently. But I mean, where do you stand with the chaos that happened last year?
Yeah, I was telling you this earlier. So my mom is currently in law school and went back to school, and there are a lot of reasons why that is, but she had unfortunately had to deal with like all of that language and just the ins and outs of what the law looks like. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I think if there's one thing I learned through all of that, it's just the importance of, I think if it was feasible, I think every person should go to law school. I really do. I think if there are things, like if you're ranking like the level of importance of just things to know about on a deep level, that's one of them. And I think when you look at what like Tyreek Hill's entire story, going back to his college days and just everything that happened with him and that relationship, and admitting to something that he didn't do, and just I feel like I would be really frustrated and angry if I were Tyreek. And I think you've seen he posted like an Instagram story a little while back, just kind of sharing his peace of mind just about how difficult this has all been. And I think this year it's been kind of nice to hear from him a couple of times in press conferences, sharing how much he loves coaching and his children. And not that like he should need to come out and say that for anyone to like change their mind. If someone is innocent, then I don't like that should be enough to like change your opinion. But there are still people who like will hop in the comments, and I think a lot of that has to do with like the national picture. They never really circled back and revisited it.
Yeah.
And like I think for fans outside of Kansas City, when there's something like that happens, their immediate takeaway, just as like maybe mine would be of a story that comes out of, I don't know, like the Bills that gets a lot of national attention but is painting a certain picture and then is never revisited as the story develops. Like my takeaway, because I just simply don't have the time to keep up with everything happening with the Buffalo Bills, like my takeaway would probably be the one thing I heard. And you see people getting comments like still bringing up like really negative, horrible things about Tyreek, and Twitter's a terrible place. It's a great place, it can also be a terrible place. So I don't know, like I don't really know what the right answer is. I'm sure he's got plenty of people, both, in his corner, family, friends, legal parts, who he consults with how to even speak about it, if at all. So I would not know the ins and outs of that. But yeah, I think like my biggest takeaway from everything that went down last year with that, and something I appreciate from talking with my mom about it, she's like, just wait and like don't make a comment on something like you don't know is fact or not. And I think just trusting like the legal process and trying not to draw immediate conclusions no matter how heinous the accusations might be, which can be really hard because there's an emotional side as well that I think people are naturally inclined depending on like what really pulls at them, which when it's something awful is most people. So I think like there's the balance of, just not letting your emotions get the best of you and trying to play both sides, even if that can be hard and in a situation that you personally would never think you'd find yourself in. But that's where, again, like understanding the legal system, understanding how everything works and what like some of the actual language means could really help when stuff like this comes to the surface, whether that's in sports, entertainment, whatever it is. I feel like there are always those big stories with that, have high profile figures involved, and a lot of it's hard to understand, like what it all means. And
a lot of police reports involved over the years not only just the Chiefs, it's been in sports in general, and it's almost been like you have to have a criminal law background in order to understand half the shit that happens with professional athletes. Growing up, it's like you have these, I never thought the athletes would be role models. I never really thought anything like that. But to see the Chiefs bring in Tyreek Hill, I remember writing an article, hire criminals, score touchdowns. And that was that was very much, because like as female in sports media, it's not you were told to feel things a certain way. It's like, well, if I don't speak up about it, who's going to have like a take where they're actually going to have a portrayal of a female sports fan's voice. So that's what I felt, it was my duty to kind of chime in with a lot of that stuff. I mean, I remember when Bob Fesco and my childhood best friend Mike Welch at the time had Larry Johnson on the show, and immediately that Thursday afternoon I marched my ass into 810 studio and just ripped Bob Fesco for an hour. That was my entire show that day. It was just talking, and never once did I cuss. I think that was like my greatest radio career accomplishment.
Which is another hard part about radio. I'm not like, I wouldn't say I have this like horrible sailor's mouth.
No, you kind of seem like an angel. Like
it is very hard like not to cuss in some, just because it's like if you get on a roll and you're just like talking about something and you just feel like you kind of really get, to me, feeling like the most casual is when I can just like throw in a cuss word every now and then. Yeah. But I try to keep it like out of, like I haven't had to have the dump button happen yet. So.
That's a good thing though.
But I'm not on air. I know, but I'm not on air frequently enough where like it would kind of be sad, I think, if it had happened already. It's not like I'm 4 hours a day, Monday through Friday. I feel like it may have happened then, but it'll be funny when it does.
Yeah, I never once, like, everyone was so concerned about me doing it, and my co-host at the time was the one that said shit on air, and I was like, oh, okay, well, it wasn't me, that's fine. But, it's hard because you look at your career and you're like where you were a year ago today, and it's like a year ago today I was taking time off and I was like, what the fuck am I gonna do now? But I got outraged because people are always like, sports radio sucks in Kansas City, and I'm like, you know what, it doesn't though, because I feel like there's people like you out there that are making things better. You and Briscoe, I mean, younger people, even Cody Tapp that used to be at A10, him going over to 610. There's a lot of young, great energy in the city. I guess Tom's included in that too. With, Let It Fly has been incredible. What they're doing for film production, what they're doing for just documenting what athletes want, which is like the hype videos and like and having that interaction. Like, as much as I want to say it, channel whatever is never going to get the camera guys in there doing hype videos for the Chiefs players and doing things like that at all, because they don't have the right kind of like, I guess, rapport with them,
Well, and that's where you got it, like Billy Quach, who they have on their creative team, who came from the Chiefs. He's their creative director. I mean, like, the guys on the Chiefs love Billy, and that, and that's like the underrated part, I think, in sports media. There's that balance between like an appropriate relationship and then getting that like comfort level.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important. But I think it is funny, like with the topic of like, oh, sports radio or, sports talk in Kansas City, like where it's at. People are still listening. I think like the one thing I've learned is like there's an audience for almost everything, whether that is more conservative, whether that's, a little bit more like off the rails, or something that is like super just stats, facts, and like I've found, and like I see all the podcast numbers, I know how everything does. There's an audience for everything, and I think like the few voices on Twitter seem to like get amplified more than it is maybe like indicative of the reality, which is that there are a lot of people who are drawn to a lot of different types of personalities, which is why I think it's important that if you find a personality, or if you find personalities that are dedicated to their craft, are passionate, like I think anyone who's passionate is enjoyable to listen to. I don't care what you're passionate about.
Absolutely.
I'll listen to you if you make me believe in what you believe, or if you make me feel like, even if I disagree with what like the crux of what you're saying is, if you make me buy into like how you feel about something, I think like that's talent right there. And that's more on like the sports talk side, then you've got personalities on the reporting side, and like I for one, like I'm a huge fan of Sam Mellinger. I think he is one of the just like funniest, most clever, talks, or writes the way he talks, which I think is such a hard thing to master, because you have
He's
to
so
like
dedicated.
You have to find a way to balance like, how to be like a good writer and journalist while also not losing my voice in the process. And like the same goes for radio reporting. It's like that, just fine. And like I struggle with this so hard. Like Tom and I talk about this all the time. He's like, just talk on camera, on air, the way that you tweet. And I'm like, I wish I could. Like it's like sometimes it's hard because
I should be talking about my nipples like that, but luckily you don't do things like that. I feel like your peers would be very proud of your Twitter presence. At worst, you might say some bad words every once in a while.
I do, yeah. I definitely am not afraid to throw, like, it's funny because like you grow up and you're like, do not cuss, and then it's like now in my family, now once we reached a certain age, it's like just saying whatever the hell we want, which is just fun. But like you always wonder, like, when did I get to that point? I don't remember my parents ever cussing. Now I hear them cuss all the time.
So
I'm dropping F-bombs on the phone with my mom. What is going on? Like,
oh yeah.
But it's fun. Like I don't know. I just think, again, just to kind of like circle back, there's an audience for everything. It can be really hard to find your authentic voice and trying to balance like staying informed, listening to what's going on out there while not trying to emulate too much of what other people do. It is such a balancing act, which is why I think like, I just have the utmost respect for people who I look at as having mastered or close to mastering something like that.
And keeping your private life private is difficult. Keeping it, a focus. Like when I first started out, not that he'll claim me, but Jason King was one of my good mentors, and he was like, yeah, just become a brand, like stick to sports, stick to that. And then over the last few years, it's like undoing that. It's like, don't just stick to sports. Stay out, get out a little bit more. I remember Stephen St. John's been a ref. I can't remember how long, but he's another person that's just been in my ear since day one. Like, you have to keep going. Like, you have a podcast, it's great, keep doing it. Like, you just have to keep waking up and doing things. So it's like, even if I just make one episode of this show like once a month, I'm still doing something. I'm producing 6 to 10 shows a week, but they're not mine. And it's like, sometimes you get tired about talking about yourself, but I feel like, you know, in your situation, are you really like doing any other like passion projects? Are you doing anything outside of sports? Like, is there anything that we should be like on the lookout, like a cooking channel? Like, I don't know. I feel like
God, no one wants a cooking channel.
Well, I mean, I thought about doing like an edibles cooking channel because my mom's a big hippie, and like us just cooking with
that'd be
meat.
kind of fun.
It'd be funny. We need to legalize that in Kansas so that could be possible. But we'll go to Missouri to do this. But you know, doing something like that, like, where would you be if you weren't in sports media?
Oh, that's a really good question, because I honestly have no idea. I've kind of realized this about myself. I always have to keep what my environment is around me and what I'm doing feel like current and new. So I love taking on like new little passion projects. And when I look at like my career up to this point, it's kind of always been like that, because even if I was working a 9 to 5, outside of that, I was pushing myself in different areas or taking on new things that I, you know, wanted to try. And so I like feeling motivated by putting myself out of my comfort zone, which fortunately at 810 I'm always feeling, because I've been fortunate to been, you know, given the chance to try new things there and, you know, put myself out there in a way that I could only do in a limited way when I was doing stuff on my own or with different blogs. And so I think like it's hard to know what my thing outside of this would be, because I do really enjoy it so much, and I do see this as being like my path, and however it pans out, I've completely thrown any script I had out the window, because I love radio. And if you had asked me in like college or high school, oh, would you ever be interested in doing radio, I'd probably be like, what? Like, I don't know. And I love it, but I think if there's something that I've always wanted to try, and I like have a mission to finally do this, but then the pandemic hit, so I kind of got distracted from doing it and didn't know how I would make it work. But I'd love to become a workout instructor. I have a lot of energy. We talked about like the whole cheerleader thing. I am not a cheerleader. I will, but like I like
just start a
hyping
workout
people
program
up.
at 810. Just get everybody up.
Why
and just,
not?
like,
That'd be
go
kinda fun.
megaphone maybe. Just be like, guys,
Oh my
we gotta
God.
do some stretching.
Would that not be the funniest thing ever?
Absolutely. That's the
Maybe
thing.
we
It's
should, like a boot
reality
camp.
show in itself is in
810
there.
could be a reality
If you
show.
got Alok and Chad doing yoga in the mornings, I might just come in and just be like, I need to join this too.
Well, and someone else who works at 810, her name's Jessica, she's a workout instructor too. So I feel like if we could team up and do something, it would be really fun. But that's something like I've always wanted to try. I also like, I'm really passionate about, like, I like being on like leadership boards of things. Like I like helping make things happen or work in some way, and like just driving whatever that is. And like my one goal that I am kind of like, okay, Brittany Matthews, like, let's get this going, because she's, you know, retweeted a couple things on Twitter about bringing the NWSL back to Kansas City.
Hell yeah.
Is something that, like, I plan on being in Kansas City for a while. Like, I mean...
Seems like it's a good fit for you.
I love it here, and I was telling
Better
Tom
than
this...
St. Louis.
I love St. Louis, I love going back, but, like, Kansas City is the place that I see myself at. It's like the balance... Like, here's the thing. It's like, I have nothing against St. Louis. I mean, and the other thing that's cool, my brother lives here. My youngest brother wants to go to med school. He's looking at UMKC.
Great med
Thinking
school.
about doing undergrad at like maybe Rockhurst at the UMKC like program. I don't know anything about this stuff. I'm like, where did you come from? Are you really my brother? I would never go to med school, but
You need a doctor. You're gonna have a lawyer in the family.
I know.
mean,
Yeah, I
it's
gotta,
very well-rounded.
gotta round it out. But like, I
Absolutely.
love having them here. But no, I would love to at some point help like be a part of groups that bring things like the NWSL back to Kansas City. Help, you know, start a not-for-profit that, you know, is helping kids in underprivileged communities getting, and like the pandemic has affected some of these things, but I really want to get on with like Big Brothers Big Sisters. And another thing I love at 810 is just the number of organizations that like the you know, Union Broadcasting and 810 are
You guys
involved
have
with.
Sharewaves, right?
We have Sharewaves,
Yeah.
and then also the hosts that have their own things and are really, you know, given the platform and ability to donate their time, you know, donate airtime to like highlighting different organizations.
Yeah,
so I think that's really
absolutely.
cool, and I just like, I really want to find what that could be for me, and like what would be something that like I get up every day and I'm like, wow, that's really cool to be a part of this and like make a difference. So those are just things that like I think as I, just kind of learn more about the city and like what I want to do or things that I'm like really interested in kind of doing. So
no, I can see you and Brittany Matthews teaming up.
I'm like, girl, let's go.
It's about time.
We're both retired, washed up former soccer players. And
washed up, yeah. Okay, well, if you guys are washed up, then I am on some sort of like desert coast or something.
I'm taking words out of what she said on Twitter about like maybe not being able to play soccer anymore. I'm like, girl, I've seen your workout videos. You could probably go pick it up and be totally fine. Easily, and then also kick my ass because like
if I can pick up a lacrosse stick and still have some sort of skills after 10 years of not doing it, I was like, pandemic sounds great. But the biggest question that we got for you was if there's any funny celebrity stories, like if there's any stories about anything ridiculous that's happened. I feel like, I don't know how many people that you were hanging out around, like celebrity-wise, up until, because like you've been hosting award stuff, you've been in and out of a lot of different places. Have there been awkward encounters with people?
Honestly, like not that I can think of, because I've never like been off to like an after party, I guess. Like I'm usually like when my job's done, I'm
like, can I go home now?
I'm like, that's the other thing about me. I am like early to bed. Early, like hardly ever up past midnight. And if I am, it's like a big deal. So ask Tom. I fall asleep at like
I'll just sleep on the couch. It's fine.
No, I fall asleep hard. So I can't think of like any like celebrity or like local KC celebrity things and like anything that would like even be remotely interesting.
What about a Gary Lezak story? Everyone has one of those.
He's I actually don't have a Gary Lezak story because I don't know why, but I love Gary. Like he brightens my day when I listen to him on 8:10 in the morning with the Border Patrol.
His love for weather. I just want to love something as much as he loves the weather.
And like his precious dogs. He's so great. He makes me so happy. No, I can't think of like anything, and I've honestly like never run into anyone out here. Like isn't that crazy?
That is so weird.
I've like seen like I saw like some Sporting KC players like out, or you see like you see them in a distance, but you're not like I've just never like really seen anyone out. So it's kind of amazing. Like I can't think of it. But one like funny story, I guess, growing up in St. Louis, we used to live next door to Dexter McLeon, who then was a Kansas City Chief, and we lived next door to him for enough time where like we became like close-ish to him. Like he would come out and like play football with us. We'd always purposely kick our soccer ball or whatever we were playing in the backyard into his pool, so we'd like have to go retrieve it, and we were just so annoying. But no, he was so
really,
he was
like, cool. I don't understand what you're doing.
No, he probably was like looking at us and like, what the hell? But he would like have all these like parties and stuff, and like all these like girls over, and like he was just like the epitome of like what you would imagine an NFL athlete, early 2000s, like living in like a suburban neighborhood with like a tricked out basement with all these games and like a really cool pool. So then, fast forward, he comes to Kansas City. My dad, at that point in his job, was coming to Kansas City a lot to do business. My dad, 5'8", short, like bald dude, like best guy ever, just like, not someone that you would imagine hanging out with like Dexter McLeon.
Oh, yeah.
So they're on the plaza, they go to Jack Stack for lunch, and are leaving, and this like Hummer pulls up, and Dexter gets out, and like he and my dad see each other, make eye contact, and my dad's like with some of his like coworkers, and Dexter's like, Brian? And my dad's like, Dexter! And my dad's coworker's like, what the hell? Like, how do these two know each other?
Just Dexter McLeon, you guys.
Just Dexter McLeon and like Brian Drost hanging out, but...
That's like the equivalent of like DMX jumping out in front and be like, hey, what's up, Brian? Like, Dexter McLeon in Kansas City? Yeah, absolutely.
So this was like, I want to say, God, when did he leave? Because he was with the Chiefs for what, like a couple of seasons? It wasn't like that long of a time, but it was... I think, shortly after he had left St. like enough time where he'd like recognize my dad, but yeah,
that's incredible.
That's like my only like funny celebrity.
I feel like that's gonna be you one day. You're gonna be somewhere besides Kansas City. Andy Reid has won like 20 Super Bowls by now, and he just looks up. He's like, Allie, and it's like that'd be amazing.
No, it'll be Spags. I love Steve Spagnuolo.
Spags, all right.
He is a like. And this is not like me being just like biased because I cover the Chiefs.
Carrington name dropped 20 different people and was like, everyone loves me and knows me. So please just tell some good wholesome stories.
Just a good wholesome Steve Spagnuolo story, because I always take note when I just like when those people like just kind of show that like they're not maybe like looking out for you, but like they recognize like your efforts, I guess. And I saw him at the Super Bowl, and he made I saw him, I was like, hey, Spags, I just want to say like congrats on this season and everything. He was like, oh, like and like knew my name and like was like, you know, just like so like kind to me and just like complimentary, which I was just like not, you know, like
that hits
Chiefs,
different.
but like Chiefs media is like crazy because it's not like sporting where it's like, of course Peter knows who I am. Peter's probably rolled his eyes at like several questions I've asked. Like, you know, he like there's so much like less media coverage there where like they know you a bit better. Whereas Chiefs, it's like that room's jam packed. Even on like just local media days, it's not like they've got, you know, just 5 people there. It's usually pretty packed. And so I just like really appreciated that. And then best story was like we're in the locker room after the AFC Championship game and it's just swarmed in there. Like there are a million people and I've got like my little monopod, my phone. I'm like trying to get like all like the footage and whatnot. And I'm like I caught it on camera and it was like, I was like, Spags like saw me and he was like, oh, like, hey, he's like, what's that little gizmo? I pointed to that. And then just the championship swagger. I was the one who asked him the question where he was like, what, I don't know what a swagger is when I asked him about like, so I just like, there's so many Steve Spagnuolo moments. Like Josh and I had like just like a segment on a NFL show we did over the summer, just like gushing over like, just such a lovely person to talk to. Like there are sometimes you get like a lot of coach speak and, you know, different personalities that maybe aren't like the most exciting. Like he's just someone who like genuinely every time he gets at the podium, I'm like, I could listen to him talk about football all day. He's just a very pleasant person to talk to. He's pleasant in the interview, like one-on-one situations, pleasant in the press conference. So Steve Spagnuolo is a gem in Kansas City, like looking at the defense and everything too. It's like, it wouldn't maybe be that way if on the field things weren't lining up, but I mean, I just like think that this team is so special and it's hard to realize in the moment, but I think 20 years from now when people look back on like, you know, the Kansas City Chiefs during the Patrick Mahomes era, it's going to be regarded as one of the best moments in NFL history without a doubt.
Easily. We're so fucking spoiled, you guys.
It's like, which is why it's also a funny time to be in sports talk because like I have to step back at times and like, are we really like criticizing this thing that is like so great? They just are coming out.
We're 8-1 and we're upset about anything right now. Like let's remember the days where we would go 9-0 and then we just lose everything after that. But it's like being aware of how lucky people are to be in the sports media world still, being aware of how awesome your job is. There's a lot of people that take it for granted, and I think they might have a little bit more before the pandemic, but I think that you've been an incredible bright light in Kansas City media, and I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you just continuing forward, and I don't know, I feel like we're going to be seeing a lot more of you and a lot more of things to come for you, so it's going to be pretty exciting.
I love it here, and I'm so appreciative too. You know, anyone watching this that found me on Twitter, that found this on Twitter, which you probably did, because that's where the two of us are very
much
loud on
people,
Twitter.
Yeah. If you could put it mildly, I was like, damn, all right, maybe I should tone it. Absolutely not. I'm never toning it down.
Never.
No.
Never, ever. No. Mm-hmm. So I just, I'm very appreciative of Kansas City sports, the fan base here, and just people who have given me an opportunity, because that's sometimes all that it takes is just find an opportunity, if any. And so like that, you know, is my one thing. If there's something that you like or are interested in, just find any opportunity to do it and just keep, like Stephen St. John told you, who loves Stephen, just keep going.
That'll be I really want to get Steven and Gary Lezak here.
Oh my God.
On a joint episode.
You'd have to just burn down the whole, like they would,
the entire
it'd be
thing.
insane.
There'd be no Johnny Walker left. There would be no, it would be jam-packed.
They're so
I could sell tickets to that kind of thing.
Yes.
Easily. So, all right, well, thank you so much again for being here at 3 Miller Lite Steve at Peanut.
With 3 waters.
With 3 waters, because some people have real jobs. Perfect. You're the best.
Oh my God, thank you so much.